last thing I want to hit today, and this is I realize sometimes in my show I talk about a lot of things, and I have had notes from readers or listeners saying, "Hey, what are you supposed to do about all this? You bring all these troubles." I will say this, and all these issues. I do think that in America, and this time, early August 2020 in America, we are looking at a time period where we are very divided. But I also, and we have a lot of, obviously, we see violence in the streets, very politically divided. We have people who are just promising they will leave America if Donald Trump is elected again. We have people it seems to be a fever pitch of toxicity, and it carries over into the U.S. Congress, carries over into what the Congress is, can get done, which is pretty much nothing, because the Democrats have spent 3.5 years trying to find a way to get rid of President Trump. But I want to close and do my third segment today on a very positive note. We are actually winning in many, many ways we don't see. America is winning. The idea of America is winning against the anti-American Marxists who are in control of the left, who seem to dominate the news cycle, whose followers on the left are extremely radical and are happy to destroy cities and burn buildings and kill people and burn police cars. The noise, the radical violence of the left is very evident, but I still say America, the idea, is actually winning against these Marxists. And I want to give you some quick examples. Number one, Trader Joe's, the food store, kind of trendy, upscale food store, always has varieties of kinds of foods that are unique, and people enjoy going there just to find. They always have something new and different that people like to taste and try. So there was a wokester, a young woman, who decided to take on Trader Joe's and accuse them of cultural appropriation because they had items like Trader Jose's. Like, they have items, they're always trying to introduce America to different ethnic foods, to different countries, different kinds of foods. They're big into expanding our food universe, I guess. So Trader Joe's had a line of Trader Jose's, Trader Ming's, and Trader Georgatos, and they have things that are named after a particular culture, and the food goes to that culture. And so you had somebody came along, just a totally obnoxious teenager came along, accused them of appropriating, and they were actually not just saying appropriating cultures, but racist. It was racist to use these terms. And Trader Joe's, the most politically correct store imaginable, was accused of racism. And what I want to say, just a quick summary of it, is Trader Joe's did not, for once, corporate America did not capitulate. They actually looked at what they did. They thought through why they had introduced the reason for all these food lines, that they wanted to share different kinds of foods with people. And they actually asked customers, what do you think about this food, that food? And customers said, man, we love it. We love the food. We love the taste. We love it. And so I get the idea. Trader Joe said, you know what? No, we're not playing your game. This goofball girl couldn't even get 5,000 signatures. And she basically got an answer from Trader Joe's. No, we're not changing our names. Thanks for your input. I want to say, first of all, I really, really commend Trader Joe's, but I also want for my listeners and I get notes all the time, how can I help? What can I do? Fight back. When I saw this story about Trader Joe's, I'm thinking I'm going to stop by Trader Joe's as soon as I can and stock up on whatever these things are, because the message you can send is actually impactful if many people do it. Buy the things that they're trying to claim are so racist, and you do end up helping push back against this just endless attack. And again, you have to understand, it's not because I'm taking sides about whether or not I like Trader Ming's or any other thing they offered. I am trying to, in the best way I can think of, to explain that it's not just hypersensitive young people who think they're woke and they're really, really enlightened and they're going to help America understand all the racism floating in the air around them. It is with a mission that the left does this stuff. I don't know if this girl who did this to Trader Joe's is just a useful idiot who has no idea why she did it, or she's actually very mindful of the Marxist intention. But the whole point of this is to destroy America, to destroy a culture of happiness and harmony and productivity and freedom. It is to divide America. And it was great that Trader Joe's said, no, not listening to you. Other corporations need to start following Trader Joe's. And frankly, most corporations surrender to the left because too few people on the right speak up. And so all the people on the board here is not just a left wing, criticism and complaints, but threats and threats of boycotts and threats of labeling everyone on their board a racist. It becomes easier just to surrender. But surrendering to any one of these is the camel's nose in the tent, the foot in the door, the surrendering of more and more of America's greatness. Two other things, quick on how we are winning. One is a ratings crash. And this I thought was a great thing. Heaven knows, I mentioned, if you listen to my show, we love sports in our family. I mean, we watch sports, definitely NBA and NFL. I mean, we're a sports family. Our kids love sports. My husband loves sports. But the political correctness of putting Black Lives Matter, which everyone paying attention in America, everyone reading the news understands Black Lives Matter is part of a Marxist movement to destroy America. It has nothing to do with standing up against police brutality, nothing to do with standing up for equal rights for all Americans, nothing to do with that. It is a radical anti-American Marxist movement that's using race as an excuse for the violence they conduct. So Black Lives Matter, Marxist group, nobody should be backing them except if you're really a Marxist, fine. But people who love this country should not be. But the Black Lives Matter movement has made its way into major sports. So the NBA and Major League Baseball are trying to get back on track a little bit after the COVID shutdown, trying to work their audience back into, and you can't go in person, but you can watch. But they both agreed to go with the Black Lives Matter language somewhere on the court, on the uniforms, in their messaging. And America is responding. I found this so heartening because America is saying to the NBA, to Major League Baseball, we're not going to watch you while you support the Black Lives Matter movement because it's Marxist, because it's going to destroy America. And you should know this and you shouldn't be backing them. So they had what only can be described as a massive ratings crash after investing their energies and their messaging into the Black Lives Matter movement. The numbers aren't that interesting, I guess, but you had the Lakers Clippers game, only 3.4 million watching. I could read all these had very, very few people watching in comparison to who used to watch this. America's saying no. We're not going to humor this. We're not going to play this game with you. We're not going to pretend that Black Lives Matter is an innocent, good movement. We're going to reject you until you stop pushing this. I love it. Okay, I have one more story for today that was in the same line of standing up. And I'll save it for another day. But in Texas, we had an effort, another way that the left is just working at destroying America's culture and society has to do with taking charge of cities and counties and zoning areas and deciding who can live where. And there is, in fact, we'll have on the show on Thursday, I think it is this week, we have Hans Bonskowski from the Heritage Foundation joining us talking about what it really is going to mean if Joe Biden were to be elected and he goes through with the affirmatively furthering fair housing, which sounds like a great thing, as all leftist ideas do. The title sounds great. The name sounds great. The fact is very, very alarming effort to have the federal government start dictating where people live, what composition your community must have, whether in suburbia where people have moved out of big cities to enjoy the life of single family homes with a yard and a community, and to force densely populated low income housing right in the middle of those communities. That's part of affirmatively furthering fair housing. We had a great thing in Texas where the voters in one of the cities around here, it was a massive project, but they pushed back against these people who ran as Republicans to serve on the board in Plano, Texas. And they were going to bring in one of these massive redistricting, change the city, change the whole way that feels to live there by forced rezoning, which was just, no one wanted it. The citizens didn't want it, but these do-gooder left-wing Marxist type thinkers who ran with R's next to their name, but they are not conservative or Republican, and they pushed this plan, tried to cram it down the throat of the people. It took a massive pushback, finally got to an appellate court who told the city, you can't do this to the people. You cannot do this. That was more of the story I meant to tell right now. But just the point is, understand the big picture. Before I go to my closing, why it matters to you, the big picture is this. America is founded on extraordinarily precious, great, good ideas. It is founded on the concept of individual freedom, personal responsibility, rights from God simply because you were born. The values, the ideas, the whole concept of the rule of law, free markets and freedom and capitalism, and working hard and receiving the fruits of reward for your labors. All of that's tied up in the right idea of America. The rule of law, separation of powers, the freedom of the individual. On the left, what you have is the radical leftists in this country are just as radical and leftist as the people who took over and destroyed Venezuela, who took over and destroyed and are still destroying Venezuela, who have ruined Cuba, ruined communist China, ruined North Korea. These radical ideas actually live in this country, in the form of all sorts of people who are playing roles in the Black Lives Matter leadership, in the Antifa leadership, and the Democrat Socialists of America. These ideas that have ruined countries, literally causes starvation and suffering of millions and millions and millions of people. People in this country today, embrace those ideas, and they are trying to push them on America the free, America the brave, America the great. The battle, and we're seeing the battlefront, many, many different fronts, all with the same mission to get America to surrender the idea of America and give in and go along with the ideas of the radical left, which will destroy individual freedom, destroy liberty, destroy the whole fabric of our culture. And the leftists pushing these things in our country they're smart enough not to be asking you in the polls, hey, what do you think? Would you like us to become communists? Because they know they'll get a no vote. So they push their agenda in 1,000 different battle lines, 1,000 different ways. The way they push America into being racially divided, into spreading the lie that there's systemic racism in America's policing. So this justifies ending the whole concept of normal policing in this country. The left pushes their lies in avenue after avenue after avenue, all designed to bring about the idea, the very change in America, the culture of America, surrendering our precious founding promises and simply capitulating to whatever they want. The left uses environmental policy, they use racial policy, they use greed and this whole idea of hate the rich and eat the rich. They use whatever arguments they can make that they think will appeal to the American people, but their goal is never to fix the problem they're talking about. The goal is to bring about the destruction of America the free. Your job as a patriot is to recognize that, see it, and get involved in the fight at whatever level you can, or whatever issues you can. Stand up for the idea of America.